with confidence building, keeping expectations realistic, because we do want to work on preventing conflict, avoiding unnecessary conflict, misunderstandings. It's not going to happen overnight, but we need a vision. We need to start having a vision for this region.
Thanks very much, Dalia. Normally I'd like to ask a couple of other questions, but I thought this might be a chance to actually bring in the audience and then continue the conversation in that way. So do feel free to raise your arms, and we have one at the back already, and then we'll continue the discussion in that way to keep it free-flowing. Right at the back, you, sir.
Are they going to ask him? Just in case.
Can we get him a mic? Thank you very much.
Thank you. William Morris, Next Century Foundation. It's such an interesting time for Iraq. It seems to me, I'm being a little provocative, but Iran's power has weakened massively here because, well, why? Because it encouraged elements that shot the demonstrators in the back, and then, as a consequence, its proxy groups have done very, very, very badly in the recent Iraq elections. I think there's a change, a shift in the geopolitics of the region, at least here, not so much in Syria, where Iran remains forceful and dreams of Iran leaving Syria are just, I think, nonsense.
Okay, can you ask the question as soon as you can? So
okay,
we can keep it free-flowing.
Basically, looking at Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, are we seeing a waning of Iran's power? And is it creating better stability? Or if you look at Lebanon, is it creating more chaos?
So this, in a way, relates to what the Ambassador Ismail said early on about regional powers being rather critical to this question of regional security and order. Being rather critical to
it's actually quite refreshing
security and order.
So much about Iran.
It's actually quite refreshing
to not discussion like
so much
this.
about Iran.
So perhaps this could be an opportunity to
discussion like this.
Respond to the
question.
Perhaps this could be an opportunity
to try and maybe,
of course, both
assess
to the question,
whether there could be alignment.
Try and maybe between Iran's interests,
whether there could be alignment
between Iran's
interests,
between
ambitions,
the Gulf countries,
and
but also let's bring
alignments,
Turkey into the equation as well.
between the Gulf
countries, but also let's bring
question?
Turkey into the equation as well. Who would like to take that question?
Don't follow in the details of the region.
Don't follow
the last couple of
in
years.
the details
of the region
elsewhere.
In the last couple of years,
but it would seem to me that. But it would seem to me that if you're talking about order or architecture, there would have to be a common vision. There would have to be a common vision, a common threat perception among the major players. I simply do not see that. I simply do not
maybe on
see
some
that,
specific issues.
maybe on some specific issues.
Let's take three major powers, or
I don't want to include Egypt. If you take Israel, Turkey, and Iran as the three. Turkey and Iran as the three significant powers. Their visions for the region as to what kind of one or two may not be genuinely nation states. May not be genuinely nation states, even imperial powers. They are maybe kind of histories. Imperial powers. It still has a hold on their psychic. It still has a hold on their psychic. Feel entitled to feel entitled to a zone of domination, if not a zone of control. Kind of a zone of domination, if not a zone of control. That's why I think that's why I think models of an architecture in Europe, they went through many wars of an architecture in Europe. They went through many wars, say to the terrible wars to then to to say to the regulation, not interference in each other's affairs, regulation, and not interference in each other's affairs, prosperity here. Some of the big principles. I think a lot of issues here that would be, I think, have to be dealt with before you get to that. Haven't been have to be dealt with before you get to that. Haven't been do constructively. If I was a student of regional constructively, if I was a student of regional, what are the pillars? Look at that. What are the pillars and where we are? Are the nations organized? Have to be addressed in a way that we are sustainable. Or the nations organized? The nation states in a way that's sustainable. I mean, are they the nation states as they are of other people's decisions? Products of other people's decisions. Is that acceptable? Are they workable? Is that acceptable? What would it take to make them workable? Nation states. What would it take to make those nation states on what issues? And then those nation states on what issues could they reach for the architecture? A grand bargain. Could you start in sub-regions for the architecture to do so? Start in sub-regions to do so.
Can I bring Ilham into this equation? I mean, it's often said that attention Iran policy agenda occupies the resources, of course, attention GCC policy agendas. Is that really still the case in the GCC countries? Is that really still the case in light of the Baghdad summit, current Biden administration, proactive approach, let's say, the Baghdad summit, building, improving proactive approach more generally? How much of a preoccupation is improving relations in the region more generally? How much of a preoccupation is Iran?
I think it still is a major preoccupation. It's not the same. I think it still is a major preoccupation. It's not the same in every country. The UAE is also preoccupied with Qatar and Turkey. But I think it remains central. One of the main. But I think it remains central. One of the main. I think we have to understand this move towards dialogue and de-escalation. I think we have to understand this move towards dialogue and de-escalation as being motivated by that. Less worried. It's that they've seen what happened. They are less worried. And that how they were really in the line of fire when things escalated, and how they were really in the line of fire when things escalated. And so it's dialogue and de-escalation being pursued. It's dialogue and de-escalation being pursued and concerned about the U.S. retreat, while still being immensely concerned about this and concerned about the U.S. retreat.
Does China create a complication? My question to you would be, competition, does China create a complication? The great power competition, right now it's dynamic, still a debate in many respects. Right now it's starting to move towards a very debate in many respects point. It's starting to move towards how does that complicate things here in the Middle East? How does that complicate things
I
here
don't
in the
think it
Middle
has
East?
yet. I think, I don't think it has yet. I think, this is the era. I think the current administration is calling it, this is the era. Strategic competition, not great power competition. It gets new wording. Strategic competition, not great power competition. It gets China is on the rise, but the essence and it is a force to be reckoned with. China is on the rise seriously, and we're competing globally.
And I agree. I don't think the Middle East will be immune
from that competition.
And I agree. I don't think the Middle East will be immune from that competition.
We shouldn't exaggerate this. That said, and we shouldn't exaggerate. Current administration says this again and again that they're not looking for a new Cold War. Current administration says this again and again that they're not looking for a new Cold War. And I certainly see no reason why we need a new Cold War in the Middle East when it comes to China. First of all, China is not taking over the Middle East. China will not control the Middle East any better or any worse than we did, right? I mean, there are plenty of reasons that there'll be pushback on China. Just like the United States, they have to compete with many different priorities. They have good relationships with Israel. At the same time, a new strategic partnership with Iran. They are very, very tightly linked to Saudi Arabia and Iraq in terms of their oil imports. So China is going to have to juggle a lot, and I think the United States has some serious advantages in this competition. But we don't have to compete with them everywhere. Largely, they're interested in economic development. Their military footprint is still minimal in this region. They are doing some things that are very worrying from my perspective, from I think many in the U.S. in terms of surveillance technologies. Certainly worrying things that we should keep our eye on. But we don't have to compete everywhere. And I think the Middle East would not be, we have a lot of overlapping interests, non-proliferation. They're in favor of the nuclear agreement coming back. They don't want to see instability. They want economic development. We want economic, these are things that we can agree on. So we can compete where we need to compete, but there are areas of agreement, and I think the Middle East should not be a new arena for this fight.
Let's hope so. We do have a question from you, sir.
زور سپاس با کردی قصه دکم دکتر سپاسی زانکوی امریکی دکین لرو باسی وضعی روشالات نوراز دکم مثلا دی چلی هید برو که ده چیتن خرابتر دبیتن اگر باسی استانه که این نزانی آینده چون دبیتن اوی امن او ماوی زور بحثی دروز دکم لسر آینده روشالات نوراز بمنطقه مثلا کنترل روشالات نوراز دست امریکا بتنیدان نمایه روسیه های ایران های دولت دیگه ادبونه شریک بود دروز کرنا بریار و کاریگری سروان بریاره هر وها دروز بونا گروپین چکدار کو او رول دولت بینن یک لای کرنا موضوع دا کو گلک خطره تیک چونی جنگه به کم بونوی او برز بونوی پلی گرما مواد کاتن مترسی آسایشی خوراک دروز بیتن او کم بیتن شرط دیسا زورتر دروز بیتن لسر او منطقه اوی کاکوشیار بری ام پانلوتی عراق لخطر ترین وضع دایا است او منطقه لخطر ترین وضع دایا.
Straight to the question, please.
کوشن ام همو خطری هیا چی دکرید یعنی چون لو ام منطقه شرق الاوسط که برو خطره کی زور گوره دچید چون لیدر باز دبی.
Thank you. And was this to a particular panelist?
Yes, Zalman and Zafiri Masar, Harduklev.
Thanks. It's, well,
Yeah, I think.
Let's take the next question as well. Let's take one more. I believe you were first, sir. Yeah, please.
أنا ويليام وردة من منظمة حمورابي لحقوق الإنسان. سؤالي للسفير خليل زاد ما بعرف إذا يتذكرني ملتقي فيه في بغداد عندما كان سفيرا في بغداد. سؤالي الانسحاب من أفغانستان فقد الثقة بأصدقاء الولايات المتحدة في المنطقة وبدأت تعيد النظر في اصطفافاتها وعلاقاتها. ماذا يمكن لكم سعادة السفير أن تقولوا لأصدقائكم كيف يمكن أن يعني يعتمدوا على الولايات المتحدة في هذه المنطقة في ظل وجود هذا التنافس التركي الإيراني وغيره؟ شكرا.
Thank you. Let's, why don't you answer that, Ambassador, and then we'll come to you, Ambassador Ismail, for the other question.
Can you tell me what the question was?
So I believe this one was directed to you.
Yeah, this one was on the impact of Afghanistan.
I'd prefer it if you answered that one, and then Ambassador Ismail can take that one.
Okay, sure. Well, if I understood the question as to what impact what happened in Afghanistan could have on other friends in terms of their confidence in the United States. Is that correct? Did you understand that way? Okay. Well, no doubt that it had in the perceptions it has had an impact. Our perception in turn is that we didn't have, at the end of the day, a good partner in Afghanistan. That we tried for 20 years to help the partner. That we spent $1 trillion or more. We spent $89 billion on the army of that partner. We created an opportunity for that partner to negotiate seriously a political settlement. We found problems in the performance of the partner in all of those. While I personally very much regret what happened in Afghanistan, because I was ambassador there too before coming to Iraq, and It was a very hopeful time to build a new Afghanistan based on the principles that we advocated. But an opportunity that was given was not taken advantage of, and the changed world, there was also a perception that we were carrying the burden, where we were providing free service in what we were doing in Afghanistan for a lot of neighboring countries and other powers who were happy to see the U.S. entangled paying costs, while they enjoyed this, the kind of the situation that the U.S. faced and sought to take advantage of it. So if I was to take a lesson for others who are dependent on the U.S., I mean, no country is as dependent on the United States as Afghanistan was. I don't see in the Middle East any country that's that dependent so importantly. Is that you always have to look after yourself better. If you want the partnership to succeed, you need to be a good partner. And you know, you have to be careful not to get lazy and assume that things will always stay the same, because they won't. So you need to be agile and adjust as necessary. I don't know whether that's a response, but I can understand why some would have concerns and would have to about what happened.
Ambassador Ismail, please.
Okay, thank you. We are talking about, your question was about the global changes, the weather changes, right? Global warming.
Correct.
And okay, Egypt is actually one of the lowest countries on CO2 emissions, and yet we are going to pay a very big price for the new changes. One of our oldest cities, which is Alexandria, is threatened of disappearance completely. On the other hand, Egypt is doing, what we are doing is actually we stopped using for a long time. We are trying to minimize the use of petrol. We are using, for electricity production, we are using solar energy, we are using wind energy, we are using gas. And even cars, we are shifting them from petrol to gas, natural gas, or electricity. However, it's not our decision, and we are not the reason. I think the main reason of global changes, of global warming and weather changes, is coming from mainly China and then other countries. The effect on the region